The renovation crew had been upgrading Central High School's old music room for soundproofing when they discovered a sealed area behind the back wall. It was October 18th, 2024, and 38-year-old contractor David Chen removed the acoustic panels to find a small enclosed space that wasn't on any blueprint. Inside, on the dust-covered floor, lay a human skeleton still wearing headphones, surrounded by 2005 dated sheet music and an open piano method book. Within hours, DNA would confirm what the small Nebraska town of Omaha had feared for 19 years. They'd finally found Hannah Peterson, the talented 17-year-old music student who vanished while practicing piano in the music room on November 15th, 2005. The piano was still open, sheet music on the stand, her phone still charging, as if she'd simply stepped out for a moment. The truth was far darker. She'd been murdered and sealed in a soundproof room by someone who worked with her every day, someone students trusted, someone who'd continued directing the music program using her memory. For 19 years, hundreds of students had made music in that same room, performed concerts, never knowing their beloved friend's body lay sealed behind the wall. David Chen was a 38-year-old experienced contractor who had been doing commercial building acoustics and renovations throughout Nebraska State for 14 years. He had worked on dozens of schools, concert halls, and music studios across the region. Before every project, he meticulously reviewed plans, checked equipment, and implemented safety protocols. Central High School wanted to upgrade its aging music room built in 1980 with modern soundproofing. The school had been operating a successful music program for 44 years and needed significant acoustic improvements to accommodate increasing student numbers. The music department head had allocated budget for the project and selected David's company because of excellent references. David and his three-person crew started work on October 15th, 2024, expecting a straightforward 3-week upgrade project. No one imagined they would make a discovery that would change their lives forever. On the afternoon of October 18th, they were carefully removing the acoustic panels on the back wall of the old music room. The plan was to replace old sound insulation materials with modern acoustic panels. The school administration wanted to improve the room's acoustics, reduce echo, and provide more professional recording quality. As David systematically removed the sound panels section by section, he noticed something strange and completely unexpected. Behind the panels was a small enclosed room. According to the architectural plans he had reviewed before starting the project, this space should not exist. The original 1980 plan showed no indication of this section whatsoever. "Wait," he said to crew member Marcus Johnson, who had been working with him on various acoustic projects throughout Nebraska for 6 years. "There's a hidden space here. It's not on any of the plans we have. It's been professionally soundproofed. This is very strange." When he fully removed the panel, shining his flashlight into the darkness beyond, he saw a small storage room, approximately 6 feet wide, 8 feet long, completely sealed, professionally covered with soundproof material. Inside, illuminated by his powerful LED work light, was a human skeleton still wearing headphones surrounded by deteriorated sheet music that had clearly been there for many years. Next to the skeleton were 2005 dated Chopin Nocturne sheets, a piano method book, a faded school ID, all covered in thick dust. In the right hand was a small music player. On the left wrist, a silver bracelet engraved with the initials HP. The walls were covered with professional sound insulation foam. No sound could escape from this room. David's hands trembled. He had been in construction for years, but had never seen anything like this. His heart was pounding in his chest. "Call the police immediately. Don't touch anything. Everyone step back. This is a crime scene." The Omaha Police Department arrived within 10 minutes of the emergency call. 2 patrol cars came first, lights flashing inside the music room window in the afternoon, followed shortly by Detective Lisa Martinez's unmarked vehicle. Martinez was 42 years old and had 18 years of law enforcement experience throughout Nebraska. She had solved hundreds of cases, but missing person cases were still the type that affected her most. She knew small towns well and understood how missing person cases devastated families and shattered communities. Forensic teams carefully examined the sealed area with meticulous attention to detail. Crime scene technicians photographed every angle from multiple perspectives, measured distances with laser equipment, collected samples from every surface they could safely reach without disturbing the remains or contaminating potential evidence. Every detail was recorded, every piece of evidence documented. The skeleton was in a sitting position, leaning against the wall, as if sitting there, listening to music. There was blunt force trauma to the back of the skull, a distinct impact point showing a single powerful strike with a heavy flat object. Clothing remnants included a dark blue sweater and faded denim jeans. Next to the skeleton were deteriorated sheet music, piano books, and old model headphones. The silver bracelet on the left wrist was engraved with HP. "A student," Martinez said quietly, carefully kneeling beside the remains without touching anything. "Music student. She worked here at this school. We need to check the entire history of the school and missing person cases. This soundproof room was deliberately constructed." School records were carefully reviewed by Detective Martinez and her team over the following hours. They examined files dating back to the school's opening, student enrollment records, music program archives, and yearbooks from every year. In police files, there was one significant missing person case from 2005. Hannah Peterson, 17 years old, high school senior, talented pianist, accepted to Juilliard School of Music, disappeared under mysterious circumstances on November 15, 2005. Martinez opened the thick 2005 case file stored in department archives for 2 decades. Detective Robert Hayes had conducted the comprehensive original investigation at the time, interviewing dozens of students, teachers, and community members, organizing extensive searches, and even getting FBI assistance. Hayes was now 64 years old and retired, but Martinez called him that evening to discuss case details. "Hannah Peterson," Hayes said slowly, his voice heavy with the memory of a case that had never left him. "I never forgot that case. It bothered me for years after I retired. She was a wonderful young musician. Everyone in the Omaha community loved her. Incredibly talented pianist, had won a full scholarship to Juilliard. She was on her way to becoming a professional concert pianist. She disappeared one November evening while practicing piano in the music room. We searched everywhere for months, systematically the entire town, the surrounding rural areas with search dogs and helicopters. We found no trace of her anywhere. It was like she vanished into thin air. Her car was in the school parking lot. Her sheet music was at the piano. Her phone was charging, but she was gone." "Were there any suspicious individuals at the time of her disappearance?" Martinez asked carefully. Hayes paused thoughtfully. "The music teacher, Richard Foster. During our investigation, he seemed very concerned, very cooperative, helped organize volunteer search parties, printed missing person posters, constantly visited Hannah's family, comforted them. There was nothing that made us suspicious of him at the time. He was a quiet man, had been working at the school for about 10 years. Everyone in the community trusted him completely." DNA comparison was immediately conducted at the State Crime Laboratory in Omaha using advanced forensic techniques. Hannah's mother, Susan Peterson, 61 years old, still lived in Omaha just 5 miles from the school in the same house where Hannah had grown up. A reference DNA sample was carefully collected with a cheek swab. Susan's hands were shaking as she gave the sample. She had been waiting for this moment for 19 years, but it was also what she feared most. A week later, the laboratory result came. Definite match. The skeleton sealed in the storage room was definitely Hannah Marie Peterson. Hannah Marie Peterson was born on March 8, 1988, in Nebraska, to loving parents Susan and Michael Peterson. She grew up in Omaha, an only child in a music-loving family. Her grandfather was a professional jazz pianist. Her mother was a piano teacher. Her father was a music producer. From age 4, she showed extraordinary interest in piano. She gave her first recital at age 6. She was a natural talent, passionate about music, a child who would practice for hours. When she started high school, she was already winning awards at state and national levels, state competitions, national festivals, solo performances with youth symphonies. She started at Central High School in 2004. Within 2 years, she became the school's most talented musician. She was the solo pianist in the school orchestra, choir accompanist, and volunteered teaching young musicians. Teachers described her as extraordinarily talented, humble, and always willing to help others. Friends remembered her as inspiring, supportive, and the best friend anyone could ask for. In the fall of 2005, Hannah was a high school senior. She was 17 years old, had won a full scholarship to Juilliard School of Music, and dreamed of becoming a professional concert pianist. She wanted to tour the world, perform at Carnegie Hall, and inspire young people in music. Her closest friend was Emma Davis. They did everything together: concerts, rehearsal sessions, weekend museum trips, cafe conversations. Hannah was a happy, excited teenager, hopeful about the future. But there was something critical that Hannah didn't know. The music teacher, Richard Foster, was developing an inappropriate obsession with her. Richard Foster was born in 1956 in Nebraska to a middle-class family. He had been divorced after a brief marriage in his early 40s, had no children, and lived alone in a small apartment. He had minimal social connections outside of work. He became a music teacher at Central High School in 1995. He was talented in music, but had failed in a professional career. As a young man, he had wanted to be a concert pianist, but wasn't good enough. He was a quiet, socially isolated man filled with disappointments. When Hannah joined the music program in 2004, Richard noticed her. Young, talented, passionate about music. Everything Richard could never be. Richard would constantly find excuses to offer private lessons, suggest extra help with concert preparations, and try to engage in increasingly personal conversations about her life and future plans. Hannah was always polite and professional, but clearly uncomfortable. In the fall of 2005, Richard crossed an inappropriate line. In October, he asked Hannah directly if she wanted to go to dinner at a nice restaurant outside Omaha. Hannah politely, but very firmly and directly declined. "Mr. Foster, that's not appropriate at all. You're my teacher, and you're much older than me. Our relationship must remain strictly professional. If you continue, I'll have to report this to school administration." Richard was completely humiliated and emotionally crushed by the direct rejection. The firm rejection transformed his inappropriate interest into dangerous obsession, which quickly turned into bitter anger toward Hannah. 2 weeks later, Hannah planned to formally report the inappropriate advance to the school principal. Her appointment with the principal was scheduled for Wednesday, November 16, 2005, but she never made it to that appointment. November 15, 2005, Tuesday evening. Hannah was practicing Chopin's Nocturne Op. 9 No. 2 in the music room. The state piano competition was that weekend. Music teacher Richard Foster was planning the concert program in his office. The building was mostly empty. A few teachers remained, a few students in club meetings. At 8:15 p.m., Richard walked into the music room. "Hannah, can you help me organize the old Chopin sheet music in the music storage? There's an original 1800s edition. It might inspire you for your competition." Hannah hesitated. She was uncomfortable with Richard's past behavior, but this was a public building. She was safe. It was just sheet music. Okay, Mr. Foster, let me text Emma. I'll be right back. But her phone was charging next to the piano. This will take 2 minutes, she told herself. They walked together from the music room down the corridor to the storage behind the music room. Richard deliberately directed her to the soundproofed, isolated area. It was dark, isolated, soundproof. Security cameras didn't cover this area. Which sheet music exactly? Hannah asked, looking nervously into the dimly lit area. Richard hesitated for one moment, his heart pounding in his chest, knowing this was the point of no return in his life. Then he made his terrible decision. Nearby was a heavy metal music stand, about 10 pounds. Richard gripped it tightly and struck Hannah on the back of the head. Hannah fell to the concrete floor, shocked, blood flowing from her head. Mr. Foster, why, what are you doing? Richard checked her pulse. It was weak, but still there. Panic came. What had he done? But he couldn't go back. Nothing. Hannah Peterson was dead. She was 17 years old. She was just 9 months away from going to Juilliard. Richard slowly backed away, breathing heavily, confronting the magnitude of what he had done to another human being. What had he done? But then cold reality came. If Hannah was gone, no one could know. Richard worked through the entire night, driven by fear of discovery. In the storage area was an unused section. Richard carefully moved Hannah's body there and positioned it sitting upright against the wall. Then he built a professional soundproof wall to seal the area. He found sound insulation foam, drywall, screws, and paint from the maintenance storage. He worked until morning. By 6 a.m., the wall looked like the original music room wall. It was professionally done, as if it had never been there. Then he returned to the music room. He left everything as it was: sheet music on the piano stand, phone charging, water bottle on the table, backpack on the chair, as if Hannah had just gone to the bathroom. Richard went home, showered, tried to sleep, but he couldn't. Hannah's face was in his mind. Her voice asking why echoed in his head. At 10 p.m., her closest friend Emma had called Hannah. No answer. Initially, she wasn't worried. Hannah sometimes went outside to call her family. But by midnight, when Hannah hadn't communicated, she was seriously worried. Early the next morning, she went to school. The school was locked, but the security guard let her in. She ran to the music room. Hannah's sheet music was still on the piano stand. Chopin Nocturne, half finished. Her phone was on the charger. Water bottle was on the table. Backpack was on the chair. But Hannah was gone. Emma immediately called the police. Detective Hayes arrived within 20 minutes. The school was comprehensively searched. Every room, every closet, every storage area, including where Richard had hidden Hannah. Everything appeared normal. But Hannah was gone. Hayes questioned Richard. When did you last see Hannah last night? Around 8:30 in the evening, Richard said, appearing very concerned. She was practicing Chopin in the music room. I closed my office and left around 9. Hannah was still practicing. She has the competition this weekend. She's working very hard. She's a very talented, hard-working student. Comprehensive searches were organized. Police and hundreds of volunteers systematically scoured the town. Surrounding rural areas were searched and scanned. Her car was examined. Nothing suspicious. Phone records were checked. Normal communications. Security camera footage was analyzed. Showed Hannah entering the music room. Didn't show her leaving. Weeks, months, years passed. No trace. Susan and Michael Peterson were completely devastated. They had lost their only child. There were no answers. Michael suffered a stroke in 2012 at age 58 from constant stress and grief. Many people believed it was from the stress of losing Hannah. Susan never stopped hoping, organizing annual search parties and candlelight memorial concerts every year. Richard continued at the school. He taught for years, showed concern about Hannah's disappearance, organized memorial concerts every November. He was supportive to Susan. Susan was grateful. In 2006, Richard established the Hannah Peterson Music Excellence Scholarship. It was given each year to an outstanding music student. Richard would speak at ceremonies, shed tears, and say Hannah's musical spirit lived on at the school. For 19 years, Richard worked at Central High. Every day he passed Hannah's memorial photo in the lobby, her portrait smiling at the piano. Every year he led the memorial session Susan organized. Every year on Hannah's birthday, he visited Susan with flowers. Susan told everyone how meaningful it was that someone who knew Hannah kept her memory alive. She didn't know that every time Richard said Hannah's name, he was standing in the building where he had hidden her body. Until October 2024. David Chen broke through that wall during routine renovation, exposing the secret Richard had kept for 2 decades. Detective Martinez worked with genetic specialist Dr. James Wilson. Detailed analysis found trace DNA on Hannah's bones. A profile was created and uploaded to databases. Dr. Wilson worked meticulously for 2 weeks. A match emerged: Richard Foster. On October 25, 2024, Martinez came to Richard's house with officers. Richard opened the door, looking exhausted. "Detective Martinez, I knew someone would come," he said. "I've been waiting for 19 years. "Mr. Foster, you're under arrest for the murder of Hannah Peterson." Richard nodded. "I know. You found her. I've carried this for 19 years. At the station, Richard gave a full confession. "I lived with her ghost for 19 years, he told Martinez. "Every day at school, walking past her photo, teaching music classes, visiting her mother, knowing she was sealed there. I didn't plan it. I got angry in that moment. But that moment cost Hannah everything. I lived with regret every day." When the news spread, Omaha was shocked. Richard Foster, the trusted music teacher who had honored Hannah's memory for 19 years, was her killer. Susan made a statement. "My daughter trusted Richard. I trusted him too. For 19 years, I attended concerts he organized. He came to my home. I supported my daughter's murderer." The trial began in November 2024. Richard was charged with first-degree murder. The jury deliberated for 3 days. The verdict: guilty. The judge announced the sentence: life in prison with possibility of parole only after serving 25 years minimum. Richard was 68 years old. He would likely die in prison. Central High School's music room was officially renamed the Hannah Peterson Music Room. A bronze plaque was installed: Hannah Marie Peterson, 1988 to 2005. Talented musician, never forgotten. Omaha is trying to heal. Hannah's musical legacy lives on. Every year the music scholarship is given to a student. Subscribe and don't forget to like and share this video with someone who loves true crime stories.